For decades, manufacturing chased one thing: lower cost, cheaper labor, faster logistics, global supply chains stretched across continents. And it worked until the world became unstable. Now, suddenly, war affects shampoo companies, tariffs shake billion-dollar automakers, and the governments are rushing to fast track factory approvals. This is the real shift happening inside manufacturing right now. The industry is no longer optimizing for efficiency, it's optimizing for control. And the manufacturers who don't understand this shift early may spend the next decade reacting instead of leading. Welcome to the Industriqo, where we break down the real forces shaping modern manufacturing, not just the headlines, the systems underneath them. Because the future of manufacturing won't be decided by only machines, but by who controls production when the world becomes unstable. Most people think manufacturing competition is about labor cost, automation, production speed, but the framework is outdated. The real competitive advantage now is resilience. Can you keep producing during geopolitical shocks, tariff wars, shipping disruptions, labor shortages, or policy changes? Because if you can't, your efficiency means nothing. And that is exactly what the latest manufacturing news is quietly revealing. The uncomfortable reality is this: global manufacturing became too dependent on stability, stable trade, stable energy, stable politics, stable shipping routes. But the world is entering a more fragmented era, and the manufacturers are now discovering something painful: a supply chain optimized for perfect conditions break under imperfect conditions. So now companies and governments are trying to regain something they slowly gave away for decades: control. Recently, Procter and Gamble warned that Middle East conflict and Iran-related disruptions could cost the company around $150 million. Think about that for a second. A consumer goods company being materially affected by geopolitical instability thousands of miles away. That's the shift. Factories are no longer isolated operational systems, they are deeply connected to energy routes, shipping lanes, commodity markets, and geopolitical tension. And here's the real insight: the more globalized your production becomes, the more globalized your vulnerabilities become too. So what? Manufacturers can no longer think like only operators. They now have to think like risk managers. The companies that survive the next decade won't necessarily have the cheapest production, they will have the most adaptable production. The supply chain used to be a cost advantage. Now it's a national security issue. But geopolitical instability alone isn't the story, because governments themselves are now stepping directly into industrial strategy, and that changes manufacturing completely. The Trump administration has been pushing reforms to speed up the federal environment permitting for industrial projects. At the same time, companies like General Motors have invested billions into domestic manufacturing expansion. Motors alone has invested around $6 billion into the US manufacturing in just 1 year. And this is not random. Governments now understand something critical. If you lose manufacturing capability, you lose strategic leverage. That's why countries are racing to secure semiconductor capacity, defense production, EV manufacturing, and industrial energy systems and skilled labor pipelines. Manufacturing is becoming strategic infrastructure again, not just business infrastructure. So, what? This means policy will increasingly shape winners and losers. Tax incentives, tariffs, permits, defense contracts, and subsidies. Manufacturing is becoming politically interconnected again, and the manufacturers who ignore policy will eventually be outmaneuvered by those who understand it. Everyone talks about automation replacing governments in manufacturing, but the reality is the opposite. Governments are becoming more involved in the industry, not less. Here's a question most manufacturers should seriously ask themselves: if global trade becomes significantly more unstable over the next 5 years, would your business become stronger or dangerously exposed? Because That answer may define your future more than the productivity metrics. And there's another layer most people still underestimate, even if companies reshore production. Who exactly is going to run these factories? One overlooked story is the renewed push for manufacturing apprenticeships and workforce development. Updated federal guidance expands funding pathways for manufacturing apprenticeships. This matters far more than most headlines suggest, because reshoring production is meaningless without skilled industrial labor. For years, manufacturing talent pipelines weakened while companies focused heavily on outsourcing and cost reduction. Now the industry is discovering something uncomfortable. You can't rebuild industrial capacity overnight. Not factories, not suppliers, not workforce culture. Industrial ecosystem take decades to build. And that's why government and corporations are suddenly investing aggressively into training, resilience, and long-term capacity building. So what? The manufacturers that win won't just invest in machines. They will invest in workforce continuity, operational resilience, institutional knowledge, supply chain depth. The future factory is not just automated, it's strategically durable. The next manufacturing leaders won't be the leanest, they will be the hardest to disrupt. So, there are three key takeaways that you can take from all of this. Number one is supply chain strategy is now executive strategy. If your suppliers are connected in unstable region, that's no longer a procurement issue, it's a business survival issue. Governments will increasingly influence industrial winners. Manufacturing is entering a policy heavy era. Companies aligned with national industrial priorities may gain incentives, faster approvals, strategic contracts, and capital access. Resilience will outperform pure efficiency. The old model optimized for margins, the next model will optimize for continuity. And the continuity becomes incredibly valuable in unstable environments. If you enjoy manufacturing analysis that goes beyond headlines and into the deeper industrial shifts shaping the world, subscribe to the Industriqo, because the next decade of manufacturing won't just create new factories, it will create entirely new industrial power structures. And if you are a manufacturer building serious industrial capability, but your market positioning still look generic, that's becoming a competitive risk too. The companies attracting talent, partnerships, and strategic attention today are the ones communicating authority before the market fully shifts. That's exactly what we help manufacturers to do. Go and book your free strategy call. Link is given in the description. Biggest mistake manufacturers make right now is assuming this is temporary. It's not. This is a structural transformation in how the world thinks about production. Manufacturing is no longer just about making products efficiently, it's about securing capability, reducing vulnerability, controlling critical systems, and surviving instability. And the companies that understand this early won't just adapt to the next industrial era, they will define it. In the old world, manufacturing was about cost, and in the next world, it will be about control.